Hello? Going again? Sound going? Is that going? Yeah. Right, welcome everybody. We're going on this Heritage Open Days bus trip around the old town. And really a very remarkable place in many respects. I hope we'll pick up a little bit of that today. We're going first of all to head out onto Alfred Gelder Street, which many of you will know, but Alfred Gelder Street is quite a new street. It was only built in the late 19th century, which for Hull terms is very young. This is the oldest street in Hull, High Street, Hull Street as it was known, and we'll talk a bit more about that when we're going down. But if you've never been before, or you haven't been for a long time, this is an area that's reopened, the old Georgian houses, well worth a visit. There's just one health and safety bit for me that I need you lot to let me know. If you look, I've got my back to you, so it's where we're going. If you see a really low tree, tell me to duck, alright? Fine, if you've had enough of the noise, tell me not to duck, yeah. We're going to turn left here in a minute, and we'll pass, in a few moments, St Mary's Lowgate, which is quite a fascinating spot. And St Mary's Lowgate is where Luke Fox was christened. And Luke Fox, really remarkable figure, one of a whole host of people from Hull who were polar explorers. Luke Fox made his name as a very young lad, carrying alum up the coast of Britain. I don't know if you know much about alum, but alum was produced in North Yorkshire, and everybody who knows anything about alum is intrigued by the raw materials. Because apart from alum and coal and various other things, you need large quantities of human urine. And he used to carry human urine up the coast in barrels. But people were a bit embarrassed who did this. And people would say, what are you taking in them barrels? And they'd say, wine. No, you're not, you're taking the... And that's supposedly where it comes from. But Fox himself was sent in 1630 by King Charles and the merchants of London. He was sent to go... he was sent to Japan. King Charles I said, go to Japan. Very difficult thing in 1630, but also, and here we pass the church, but also go by the north of Canada. Well, of course he never got there, nobody'd done that before, but he was the first man to circumnavigate what's now known as Hudson Bay, to map the whole area and to come back without losing a member of the crew. The Fox Channel, the Fox Peninsula and various other things are named after it. So quite an important figure. In a moment we're turning left down Liberty Lane here, and we're going to come back up High Street. And I want you to think about High Street when you come along it. It's quite unusual, because it's the only high street in the country, as far as I know, that doesn't have a shop on it. It's got a cafe, it's got a pub, but it hasn't, more than one pub, but it hasn't got a shop. It really is quite remarkable. But it's a home to all sorts, of course, of people from the area who were very important and did lots of things in the past. Just over there was where the Delaples had their early house, and they lived in John Rottenherring's old house. John Rottenherring had been in the fish trade. Not really a good name for making your, not a really good trademark nowadays to be called rotten herring, but actually rotten herring was a product you could eat in those days. So we're coming up High Street. You'll pass old buildings and new buildings, but it's the old buildings that make this street fascinating. And we're very lucky to have this street, because in the 1950s, when they were planning the rebuilding of Hull after the war, they did have a plan for a dual carriageway up here. Our forefathers were not that necessarily good with our heritage. We're going to be passing on the Sailmaker's Arms in a moment, and the Sailmaker's Arms was founded by a couple of people back in the middle of the 19th century, Raymond and Sharp. And Councillor Raymond had made his money on the Victorian gold rush in Australia. He made his money, but he came to, one of the few people I've ever met who did actually make money out of the gold rush, but he came back to Hull, and came to Hull and settled and went into business. And he was partly responsible for the development of what is now Alexander Dock and the Hull and Barnsley Railway. So as we move along here, you can see other buses in the area. There's plenty to see around the whole place if you're going to spend the day out here. A visit to Wilberforce House, or to the Wilberforce Institute here, well worth a deal and a look as we move along. But what you'll see as we move that little bit further forward, we'll come by Wilberforce House. Wilberforce House, much older, than the time of William Wilberforce, and it's a really fascinating building when you go around it. And if you just have a look at it, you'll see how big it is from up here. You can see there's various different stages to it. It's very 17th century in terms of the door entrance and the way that you come in. And there's William in the garden. I don't know about other people here, but as a child I used to be fascinated by the model of William Wilberforce inside. Well, this is the Georgian house estate. We're very lucky in Hull to have quite a number of Georgian houses left. This is one of them. This museum was closed for a long time, but it's reopened recently. You enter it through Wilberforce House, and well worth a visit through. I'm based at Blade's House, which is part of the University of Hull. It's across there, and we'll be near there quite soon. But if you haven't been around Blade's House, where I'm based, go and have a look later on. It really is quite a gem. We're by the old Pease warehouses here. They date from 1745, the earliest ones here. Again, quite something to do with the town. But as I said, this is a new road. We're going to travel down the new road for a short distance, and then we're going to turn to go past the front of Queen's Gardens. Now, I don't know how much you all know about Queen's Gardens, but it was built as a dock. It was built as a dock in the 1770s, and when it was opened in 1778, it was the largest dock of its kind in the country, 11 acres, and they dug it out with pickaxe, shovel and wheelbarrow. That's all the equipment they had at the time to dig that dock out, and it was quite something when it was opened. And but if you look at it, it's almost like an arm of the River Hull. It's not much wider than the River Hull. We'll see where you went into it in those days, but it remained the most powerful dock the biggest dock in Hull for quite some time. But around the 20th century, its days were numbered. And in the 1930s it was filled in to make the park, or the first version of the park that we have now. The man here on our left-hand side was Charles Henry Wilson, later Lord Burnham. But Charles Henry Wilson was the founder of the Wilson line, or rather, him and his father and his brother were the people who developed the Wilson line. And the Wilson line of Hull was the largest privately owned shipping company in the world at the end of the 19th century. It really was quite something. And later it was taken over by Sir John Ellerman. John Ellerman was from Hull, and when Sir John Ellerman died in the 1930s, he was said to be the richest person who'd ever lived in Britain. 40% of probate that year was his estate. So we're going to go past the statue of Wilberforce here, and this isn't of course where it originally was, but it was put up here shortly after it was put up in a different place shortly after Wilberforce's death, but moved here of course when they relaid out the gardens and the area around here. So quite an interesting bit of the town. As we're coming up here, we're coming to George Street. And one of the things you might notice, or might not, is actually it drops away the land on that side. Like a hill, almost. Now Hull's flat. It doesn't have hills. How on earth does it drop away? And if you ever went to a wedding, and you went out to have your photographs taken in the old graveyard at the back that was there, you'd see it drop away quite dramatically. Why? Well, when they dug all that soil out of the dock, they had nowhere to put it. They had lorries to take it away. So they piled it on this side of the town, and it made this part of the town higher. And you can see the edge of the spill on that side. You can see the way that it dropped away. And even the YPI down George Street, the YPI down George Street, you'll see that that's a little bit lower than the land immediately around it. So we've got quite a fascinating town in all respects. What we're going to do in a minute is pull down what's called Dock Office Row. Hey, we're having a really good one of the rain today. One of the fascinating bits of the town that people very rarely get to will be the Charter House, and a bit later on we'll see that. But for the moment we're going to go down Dock Office Row by the glass grand piano, as I call it, here. By the anyway, when we pull down here, if you look on your right-hand side, you'll see the way the road curves round. It actually follows the line of the dock, because the dock used to stretch right through what is now the college building, all the way down to this end, and its original entrance was on the River Hull, and we're going to stop near there by the 3 dry docks down there, the one in the middle, hopefully. So quite something as we move around here. This is a fascinating bit of Hull. People think, oh, it's just empty, it's not used anymore. But this is where, for centuries, the original North Brick came into the town. It came across there. If you're walking along that shore there, you can see the abutments to it. And there are 3 dry docks here, and we're going to stop by the one in the middle. But this one at this side here, this was the site of what was known as the North End Yard. And that's where HMS Bounty was built. It was built as the Bethia. It was later sold to the Admiralty, renamed the Bethia, and the rest, of course, is history. We're going to stop here for just a few minutes, just while I fill you in with the till. This is really one of the most fascinating pieces of waterfront, not only in Britain,